That's all. I mean, yeah, you've shown a lot of a creative side. We've discussed a lot of that, a lot of positive things. Also, and you can touch on it if you want to about how football's played a big role in your life. But I think, and in fact, I think earlier we were talking about this. Like, for example, you didn't follow through on like a Sunday league because of church and stuff like that.
Yeah. So I used to play Saturday league, and I got scouted for Sunday league semi-pro team, but I wasn't allowed to play for them because I had to go to church on Sundays. And there was no negotiating with my mum. My football manager came to the house to try and tell her, like, look, this is a big opportunity, but it was, no, we don't play with church. So as long as there's football on Saturdays, you could play on Saturdays, but Sundays, absolutely not. So, yeah.
How was your journey with church? I know that in the beginning, when I knew you from earlier, you were quite active with it.
Yeah. So I was raised in the church, St. Mary's in Balham. That was my grandparents' church, so we was raised in it. And yeah, everything was great up until I was 17. That's when my dad fell ill. My dad had a stroke. And I think that was the period of time and the years after, a long period after, is when I started to question God, religion, everything really, because I didn't have nothing was making sense. Even when he felt ill, the doctors didn't know why it happened. Pastors were saying things like it's God's plan, and none of that at the time really made sense to me. I couldn't comprehend it. So that was a very challenging time. Definitely was angry at God in that period.
It makes total sense. I think that's quite a reasonable thing for a younger man to feel. Your father, for reference, was a very smart man. I think you mentioned off camera he was masters in.
Yeah, masters in maths. So I was saying that, before any homework, it was maths work and then your homework. Maths was everything for him.
You were doing Excel sheets early on as well, budgeting and so on.
Yeah, he taught us everything. That was very normal.
Also very healthy. I remember the first day of secondary school, me and Tuoyo went from the same primary school to secondary school. We got on the bus, the 39, and then in that evening we walked home with your mum and dad. It was a nice summer's day. We also met Ronald that day as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And yeah, what was funny is Ronald went to my first primary school that I went to, and then obviously I left in year 3 to come to St. Anne's where I met you. But yeah, so that was the first time I knew Ronald was going to the same secondary school.
The accessible psychologist. No, but rest in peace, Uncle. Really lovely gentleman. It was really sad upon his passing. What did that? How did you get through that difficult period, and did you ever recover your sense of spirituality? And during the time when you didn't have it, did you sense a loss of meaning in your life?
Yeah. To the loss of meaning question, yeah, for sure. Because nothing made sense anymore. That wasn't in the script. That wasn't supposed to happen. So yeah, that period of time I was searching for answers, couldn't find answers anywhere, nothing made sense to me. It was a really difficult time. And I think what I was saying to you before was what eventually pulled me around was understanding that I'm not the first person this has happened to. I'm not going to be the last person it happens to. And also other people had been through, on paper, worse things. But for some reason they were able to maintain their faith, and that would be the thing that pulled them through. And I was just interested in that concept of this faith thing. How are people, so empowered by it that it's able to pull them through these hard times. And then I was just hearing different psalms. I'll be speaking to different people. Every now and then I'd open the Bible, and then I'd find something that resonates. And it was interesting to me that these scriptures that are thousands of years old are able to help in times today. And I think that was when, I'm talking 10, 15 years after my dad fell ill, but it was after that period of time where I started my journey again. And I kind of got back in the church, and yeah, it's been a long journey, but I'm back, back practicing for sure.
I'm going to ask you about it. So yeah, no, it's super interesting to hear you say this. I think we've both discussed this off air as well. That I think there's always like some personal experience that a person has, some kind of, and I think we've also found common ground very often in our conversations. Talk to me a bit about that. Have you found like more in common with people of faith in general? Are there any experiences that you can recall that you've had when you've reached out to the supernatural?
I mean, in terms of being able to relate to people, I feel when people believe in a higher power, and this isn't to go against anybody's religion, what everybody believes in, but I feel in a way we're all practicing similar things in a way. So obviously I understand everyone practices differently and believes in different things, but somebody was telling me they believe in the universe and they practice affirmations and all of these things, and I said, well, it sounds like you're praying to me, and I just feel like there's a lot more similarities in things than people would like to acknowledge. And I can't remember the other part of the question.
No, it's fine. You pretty much covered it.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
It was also just if you remember any experience off the top of your head.
Yeah. I mean, I could tell you a more recent one, to be fair. So the job that I've got now, I had my final stage interview, and I got given a book for my birthday, The Power of Positive Thinking. And I thought it was a book just about affirmations and speaking into the universe, blah, blah, blah. I've read all those books before. Anyway, I'd started reading that book, and then I realized it was actually a book based in Christianity, and using the scripture as a form of prescriptions, like if you're going through things, right? And I got to my job interview like an hour early, and I was reading the book, and then one of the chapters was on the power of prayer. And it basically said one of the prayers that you should pray is praying for those who've done you wrong, because if you don't pray for those people, it's going to hold you back. So that was the first time that I genuinely prayed for somebody who did me very wrong, and I wished them the best, their family, everything like that. And that was the most relaxed interview I've ever had in my life. I had to give a presentation. Long story short, the day after, they told me that I smashed it and I got the job.
And for reference, I think it's also interesting to mention that you had a pretty rough stretch of not finding work before that.
Yeah. That was it. Everybody who knows it's 2025 now, so this was 2024. So anyone who knows 2024 in London and you was looking for a job, even up until now, the market was crazy. Couldn't get anything. Just a week before then, I had another presentation that I did. I got told I didn't get that job. So at this point, I was tired. I had nothing left. And, God came through on that one.